Hey, so I want to show you how I harvest more attack animations for my player character in my game using Mixamo. And I can do this at any point in my development process, no matter like what assets I have like saved and stored and organized. So it's kind of like quick and dirty, and it relies on me just like exporting out of the engine here. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So find your skeletal mesh, or in this case, my shy skeletal mesh, and export it as an FBX from the engine. To kick this off, I got a little folder here for him, shy skelly mesh, and I'll go ahead and add export to that so I know what's going on. All right, here the settings don't really matter, just match them to mine. I'll go ahead and go full screen here. Export preview mesh, just make sure the mesh is added on to like animations that we might export, and this is default settings. These are default settings here, other than that. Okay, over to Blender. Simply going to import into Blender into a blank scene. Nothing special going on in my scene here. It's just a default scene. All right. Except I had deleted the lights and the cubes. The cube, the light, and the camera. Which really doesn't matter for this purpose, but I just do it anyways. All right, so now we're going to export as an OBJ. So we brought in the FBX and we're going to rip off the skeleton. So File, Export, Wavefront OBJ. I'm going to increase the scale to 100. This is important since the centimeter to meter unit difference between Unreal and Blender. You'll get a cursed crumpled animation if you don't do this in this manner. Okay. This is going to be the shy SM, or static mesh. And I'm pretty sure we did that right. So let's go over to Mixamo. Let's go ahead and upload that. So given that you don't have your player character in your Mixamo viewport or uploaded to your Mixamo anymore, you can run through this process of exporting the FBX, ripping off the skeleton by exporting the OBJ from Blender, and then bringing in and resetting up the skeleton. If you don't do this, you get flat, like a rotated, incorrectly rotated animation, or a cursed, crumpled character, all sorts of fun stuff. And this is my workflow for getting rid of all those issues. And it comes with its own nuance, like, I don't know, issues and like, I don't know, steps that you have to go through. But to me, it's still quicker and more efficient. All right, now that that process is kind of finished, we'll hit next. And I can make this not show up anymore. All right, don't worry about the faces issue. We'll handle that when we export the final animation from Blender, because the faces are hardened here. But that's not an issue. We're simply going to grab a new attack animation. I want a basic horizontal attack for my character. And I can kind of visualize what it'll look like with the sword in his hand here. And that's the important part. This is an attack animation, and the way I have my socketing and gear set up in my Unreal Engine project kind of means that the sword's going to be stuck to that wrist bone. So that's just fine. Let's download that. And try to keep in mind which like arm is right and left, and which arm you have the weapons socketed to in your engine. That all makes sense. So first thing we're gonna do is just drag this into the engine so I can show you that result. The settings for import are simply just to not import the mesh, make sure the skeleton is set correctly, and the animation will by default import. All of these are default settings. Okay, just gonna open that up. Everything looks right. It's playing correctly. The frame count is a little odd, but that's not a big deal because the FPS matches it. We could probably correct that in Blender if I cared. Okay, so here's what we're going to look at here now. So I don't want to change the way my swords are socketed on these new animations I'm bringing in, because they work and they're proper for the other animations that I've already kind of tuned. So as you see the sword clipping, it's kind of rotated a little odd. That's okay. The weird part, though, is where it clips into the other arm over here, and I don't like that. So that's what I'd want to fix. And maybe a little bit of rotating the sword and the wrist on the swinging hand. So we want to modify this animation. We got to go through a little bit of interesting workflow as well. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to right-click the animation that we've imported. This is important that we've already imported the animation to Unreal. It's done its thing, whatever that is, and then we can export it back out as an FBX. So don't edit the downloaded animation from Mixamo for this. We're going to export the animation. Shy, attack, and I'm just going to go ahead and say modify me. just to make it super easy to me that I want to modify this animation. And this is the export preview mesh button that I have ticked. That's going to be good here so that the mesh comes out with the animation, or else I just get a skeleton, an armature. All right, let's export that. We'll head back over to Blender. All right, I'm going to start a new scene because I don't want any conflicting namespaces in the skeleton. That'll cause issues. All right, let's go ahead and import that animation. Importing an FBX. All right, this guy here wants to be modified. All right. Being a little new to Blender makes this process a little clunky for me, but I was able to figure it out and get my workflow steady again. So I know which arm I want to modify because I have the preview of the animation here. I don't need to go through setting up the sword socketed to the bone in Blender. I can kind of look at this viewport and just kind of map the changes in my head and make those changes. Making this process efficient is important to me. So these keys right here are just really zoomed really close together. So there we go. All right, the tactic here is to delete the baked keyframes on the joints that we need to kind of correct, because the keyframes are like really baked in here from Mixamo. So I'm going to select this whole arm right here, and there's points at which I want to kind of modify this arm. I'm going to just remove all the keyframes. So starting here-ish is where that problem probably starts to occur. I'm going to want to remove all these keyframes. So I'm going to drop down the hierarchy of my selected joints, and all of these layers here kind of correspond to the joints or the armature pieces that I have selected, plus the whole hierarchy itself. It seems like the whole hips or placement. So the ones with parentheses next to them are the ones that I'm interested in kind of removing and remaking. So to do that efficiently, I kind of want to figure out which line of keyframes I want to start on. So it's this one here. Now I'm just going to remove all these right here. Make sure not to remove any extra layers. Only the ones that you're trying to address with these like parentheses next to them, or else you're going to get some issues. You're going to need to start over. All right, so I'm going to delete those keyframes, and then I'm going to kind of check to see if I have any issues with my animation. Not really. It still looks good. And then the arm just kind of hangs, you see? Select this bone here, and I'm just going to give a good old check on the rotation to see if, oh yeah, I like that. That's a good bone choice. So I don't want to snap it right afterwards. I kind of want to remove more of these keyframes so that it doesn't look too snappy. You know, let's just remove all of these. All those. All right, so sword's coming out of his hand. Let's bring that up. Right click, insert keyframe, location, rotation, and scale. He swings, comes through. The sword is coming out sideways. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Just trying to think about how this sword is positioned. Oh yeah, there we go. Right click, insert keyframe, location, rotation, scale. There we are. The sword's coming up this way now. So we'll kind of turn it a bit. Yeah, so it's sideways. I think so. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's okay. You get the point. We're just going back and forth a bit. Now we're going to rotate the sword back up a bit. I think that'll look good. Not going for anything perfect here, just something that looks like a cool attack. And then straight up. I think that's cool. Okay, and then let's copy that first keyframe. Control C, and let's paste that at the end so that we don't get anything too jarring. And we'll move this over a bit right here so it doesn't move too quickly. Same with that. Yeah, just spread those out a bit. All right, let's click play, make sure it doesn't look too clunky. Oh, cool. Yeah, right click, insert keyframe, location, rotation, scale. That works. And that will tilt that a little bit more to the side. Spend it a little bit more. Looks a little funky, but I actually think it's going to work for me. It's right over the same namespace and re-import. Nice. Whew. Good stuff. And that's my favorite method for bringing in new attack animations for my player character. I hope that works for you. I can do that all day long and have a good time, I guess. Modifying the animations can take a long time if you are really picky. But in this case, I know I'm going to go back and replace all these animations with a separate workflow, with a custom rig for my shy player character. So this is all like really strong placeholders. And if they like made their way through to a product that I didn't touch again, it wouldn't kill me and it wouldn't make me feel too insecure. So he agrees too. So anyways, see you guys later.